When Anna was on her morning jog through a nature reserve, she saw something that stopped her in her tracks. So close to the trail, she saw a bison. As she came to a halt, the animal neared her, and while Anna was in shock, it gently pressed its head against her body. Anna couldn't believe what she was seeing. This certainly wasn't ordinary behavior. Then, Anna quickly realized that the bison was trying to communicate something. She couldn't help but wonder, what did the animal want to show her? The animal seemed gentle enough as it was using its hoof and scraping it on the ground. It let out a startling sound. Anna had never heard a bison make a sound before. It resembled something between a grunt and a growl. The animal was moving its head animately. Anna knew she had to follow it, but would it be a good idea? She wondered if it was actually the right course of action. "Am I really going to do this?" she asked herself aloud. The bison seemed to turn at the sound of her voice, patiently waiting as it had started going off-road. Would she even be able to find her way back? Seeing such a large animal had made her want to turn tails and run, but something had stopped her. The fact that she had frozen into place after seeing it, and it nearing her so slowly and patiently, almost as if it was trying not to scare her off, it was astonishing. She had been holding her breath when it was only inches away from her and only exhaled when it had pressed its forehead to her chest. That was not normal animal behavior. Anna had never been that close to a bison before, or any animal for that matter. She loved jogging through the nature reserve due to the peace and quiet. When animals noticed people being around, they normally ran in the other direction. If she or anyone else ever saw an animal, it certainly wouldn't be close. It made Anna wonder why this time was different. As the bison walked away from her after its brief touch, it wouldn't stray too far from her. She even tried backtracking a bit, but as she did so, the animal let out a grunt and pounded its hoof on the ground. It seemed like it really didn't want her to leave. When she approached the animal, it waited until she was near it. Then it moved. As she came up beside the animal, trying to study it as well, seeing if the poor animal wasn't injured in any way, it suddenly moved. It scared the living bejesus out of Anna, but before she could let out a yelp, she noticed how the animal had only resumed walking. That calmed her nerves a little bit. She had no clue that this was only the start of her troubles. "Fuck it! Let's do this!" she said as she saw how the bison had left the path that she had originally taken. Going off the path and pushing past twigs, branches and leaves, she soon found herself surrounded by trees, bushes, and a lot of leaves. She and the bison were alone, and though she found it scary to venture into the woods like that, she knew that the animal needed help. Not knowing where to go or even what to do, Anna followed the bison as the animal slowly continued its walk deeper into the woods. She was trying not to trip on the roots scattered around the forest floor as she looked at the bison. "Where are you taking me?" she wondered aloud. What if the bison wouldn't take her back? Would she find her way back to the path? She knew it wasn't a good idea to just follow the bison blindly. No one had known she had gotten off the path, or at least as far as she knew. So, though she kept following the bison, she also grabbed her phone. Seeing that she only had 2 bars of service left, she knew that she had to do it quickly. No service could prove to be lethal. She would simply share her location with her boyfriend. She texted Matthew quickly, giving him the location of where she had left the path and where she currently was. If she lost service, then it would pinpoint where her phone had last picked up any service. "Sharing my location in case I get lost. I'll explain it later. Anna." She sent before putting her phone back in her pocket, now with only 1 bar. She had made sure to put her phone on silent before putting it away. She was afraid that a loud sound would scare the bison, and if she lost the animal, she feared that she would never be able to get back. During their walk, the bison would sometimes momentarily stop, check if she was still there, and then continue. It truly was strange behavior. The animal kept up a brisk pace, though often stopped to let Anna catch up to it. It seemed to be in a hurry, sometimes even showing its dismay in Anna's pace with a grunt and a stomp of the hooves. Why did the bison want her to follow it? The animal didn't seem hurt. She had checked, so what else could be the reason that it had asked for help from a human? As they walked deeper into the woods, Anna couldn't help but notice that it was getting later. The sun had started to go down, elongating the shadows in the forest. It certainly wouldn't be safe for her to be out here during the night. Anna had planned to go on a nice run. It shouldn't have been longer than an hour, but now it was obviously taking a lot longer. She knew she couldn't be in the nature reserve after dark. Who knew what kinds of animals roamed the woods at night? What if she came across a mountain lion? She wouldn't believe that the bison would stay with her if that were the case. She told herself then that no matter what the bison wanted, she needed to go home soon. The bison suddenly stopped, making Anna stop dead in her tracks too. The animal started to breathe heavily as it began stomping its hooves louder than ever before. What was it seeing? Had she been right about mountain lions living in these woods? If that was the case, she was royally screwed. However, nothing dangerous sprang from the bushes. Anna noticed that the bison was looking at something behind a thick tree. It was just out of her own sight, but she was too scared to move. She took a deep breath, calming her nerves before she slowly took a few tentative steps forward toward the tree. When she looked at what was behind it, she gasped. Her brows furrowed at the sight. She now had even less of an idea of what was going on. Why had the bison led her here? Why had the animal wanted her to follow it to discover this? What did it want from her? Had it truly been asking for help, or was it something else? She didn't understand what she could do, and unluckily for her, it wasn't like Anna could actually ask the bison. Before her stood a campsite. No one seemed to be here at the moment. However, the people who resided here hadn't been gone for long, as the ashes of their campfire were still a bit warm. Regardless, there was nobody inside the tent, and it had even been left a bit open. It seemed like the camper had left in a hurry. Anna couldn't help but explore. The bison had looked at her, almost concerned, as Anna ventured into the camp. She saw clothes, supplies, and maps scattered around. Yet, instead of finding answers, this only raised more questions. Who was staying here? Anna concluded that though the sun had gone over its peak, she needed to find answers. Something strange was happening here, and she would get to the bottom of it. Anna's gaze swept over the campsite, her eyes taking in the chaos of hastily abandoned gear. Tents were half collapsed, a cooler lay on its side, its contents spilled into the grass. The air was still, the usual sounds of wildlife muted, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Anna's instincts tingled. Something was not right. She stepped carefully, her eyes scanning the area for any sign of the campers or what might have driven them away so suddenly. Among the strewn items, Anna found a leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn, suggesting it had been well used. Flipping it open, she found the first pages filled with meticulous notes about the nature reserve. The entries spoke of the diverse animals that called the reserve home, their habits and behaviours. The handwriting was neat, methodical, and that of someone who observed and revered the natural world. The journal's early entries detailed animal migration patterns, showcasing an impressive variety of wildlife. There were notes on deer paths, bird nesting sites, and even the occasional mention of fox dens. The detail struck Anna. The camper had documented the locations and times of sightings, creating a vivid tapestry of the reserve's inhabitants. As Anna delved deeper into the journal, the notes became more specific. Clearly, the camper wasn't just a casual visitor, but someone with a profound understanding of the area. This person had spent a significant amount of time here, learning and documenting. Anna's respect for the unknown author grew with each page turn. She couldn't fathom how wrong she would be about that. Tucked between the journal's pages, Anna found a map of the reserve. Certain areas were circled in red ink, and paths were highlighted with meticulous care. The camper appeared to be following a specific route, possibly tracking something. The map and the journal's detailed entries suggested a purposeful exploration. Anna's curiosity was piqued. What was this person tracking? Why did they leave in such a hurry? She folded the map, tucking it into her pocket, She needed to find out what had happened. As Anna pondered over the map, the bison nearby seemed restless. It edged closer, its large, warm breaths stirring the air around her. With a gentle nudge, it directed her attention towards a discarded backpack near the edge of the campsite. Its behavior was peculiar, almost as if it understood the importance of the campsite's scattered items. What could it have seen? The bison's actions were deliberate, guiding Anna through the campsite. It would pause at certain items, a broken lantern, a scattered pile of clothes, and then look back at her as if urging her to inspect them. Anna followed its cues, her curiosity deepening. The animal seemed to be an active participant in her investigation, almost as if it was trying to communicate a specific message through its behavior. Anna watched the bison. She began to interpret its actions as a silent plea for help. Each nudge, each directed gaze seemed to be a part of a wordless dialogue, guiding her towards understanding. The bison's persistence was more than mere animal curiosity. It was a deliberate attempt to lead her to something important. Spurred by the bison's actions, Anna re-examined the campsite with renewed focus. She discovered a torn piece of cloth partially buried under a bush and a series of footprints that she hadn't noticed before, leading away from the campsite. She felt the need to follow them, but first had to make sure she wasn't overlooking anything. As the evening shadows grew longer, Anna realized that the bison's behavior was intricately connected to the campsite's mystery. It was as though the animal was trying to guide her toward uncovering the truth about the abandoned camp and its previous occupants. The two followed the footsteps, and Anna gasped at the sight. Venturing just beyond the campsite, Anna stumbled upon a clearing that told a story of chaos. Branches were broken, and the ground was scuffed as if a scuffle had taken place. The disorderly state of this area contrasted sharply with the tranquil surroundings of the nature reserve. It made Anna nervous. Anna then noticed dark, dried stains on the ground and surrounding foliage. Her heart sank as she realized they were traces of blood. The presence of blood painted a grim picture, suggesting that the altercation had been far from harmless. This finding intensified Anna's concern, raising more questions about what had transpired in these woods and the fate of the people involved. Anna's attention was then drawn to a fragment of paper half buried under a fallen branch. Upon closer examination, it was a piece of a map. It was torn and weathered, but still legible. On it, a specific area within the reserve was circled in red. The location was not far from where she stood. What significance did this place hold, and why was it marked? Back at the campsite, Anna spread out the torn map pieces alongside the journal. She cross-referenced the circled location on the map with the journal entries. The journal mentioned this area several times, though the context was cryptic. Anna's eyes flickered between the map and the journal, trying to decode the connection. The discovery of the map pieces and their connection to the journal added a new level to Anna's quest. She felt compelled to follow this trail of clues, to uncover the truth hidden within the circled area on the map. Trying to figure out which way she wanted to go, the bison seemed to notice her behavior and started to lead her once more. He knew where they had to go. Despite the unease twisting in her stomach, Anna made up her mind. She couldn't ignore the breadcrumbs of mystery laid before her. Maybe she would find the answer at the map's location. Clutching the map firmly, she resolved to follow its lead, to chase the truth no matter where it took her. Hopefully, it wouldn't be a mistake. The bison, as if sensing her determination, stepped forward with a renewed sense of purpose. It moved with an assurance that seemed almost human, its large brown eyes meeting Anna's. In that moment, a silent agreement was formed between them. The animal would lead and Anna would follow, partners in an unspoken pact. Anna took a moment to prepare. She checked her phone, which showed a dwindling battery life and no service. She decided she needed some supplies and rummaged through the scattered supplies at the campsite. She found a half-empty water bottle, a flashlight, and some energy bars, scant provisions for an unforeseen journey. With a final glance at the abandoned campsite, Anna and the bison set off. The bison moved with a purposeful stride, leading her away from the familiar trails and into the dense thicket of the woods. Anna followed closely, her eyes scanning the surrounding wilderness. The world around them seemed to hush in anticipation, the only sounds that of their footsteps and the occasional rustle of leaves. They ventured deeper into the woods, the terrain growing more rugged with each step. Anna followed the bison along a barely discernible path, trusting in the animal's instinctual knowledge of the land. The map in her hand was a guide, but the bison was her compass, confidently navigating through the underbrush. She felt the thrill as she was walking into the unknown, driven by a mystery that lay before her. The forest enveloped Anna and the bison, a green canopy arching above them. They moved through thick underbrush where sunlight barely touched the ground. The bison moved confidently, unbothered by the wildness, its massive body easily parting the dense foliage. Anna's senses were on high alert. You could never know what was hiding among the leaves. During brief rests, Anna pored over the journal, tracing her fingers over the meticulous entries about the bison herd. The journal detailed their migration patterns, noting specific trails and watering holes they frequented. This intimate understanding of the bison's habits vividly depicted their life within the reserve. Anna couldn't help but wonder why. The notes went deeper into the bison's social dynamics. There were descriptions of how the herd interacted, the roles of dominant males, nurturing females, and playful calves. The journal captured moments of tenderness and conflict in the herd. Anna grew more invested in these creatures, their lives documented with such care and detail in the pages she held. As Anna progressed through the journal, the entries became more cryptic. The descriptions became less about the bison's behaviors and more about specific individuals within the herd, marked with peculiar symbols and codes. The change was gradual but unmistakable. It was as if the author's focus had shifted. But to what? Anna reflected on the entries, trying to decipher the shift in the narrative. The bison grazed nearby, and Anna felt a kinship with the animal and a responsibility towards the story unfolding in her hands. The journal, once a mere observer's account, now felt like a beacon, guiding her to an unseen truth hidden in the wilderness's heart. Anna observed the bison that was with her and thought about the fact that he was here alone. She began to hypothesize about its separation from the herd. Perhaps it had been ousted in a struggle for dominance, or maybe it was seeking something lost. The bison's calm demeanor around her suggested a unique story. She yet had to uncover what exactly. Turning her attention back to the journal, Anna found the later entries increasingly difficult to interpret. The author's notes, once clear and informative, now read like a cryptic puzzle, filled with ambiguous references and obscure symbols. It was as if the writer had descended into a personal obsession. Anna felt a growing sense of unease. What was waiting for them? Amidst the cryptic entries, Anna came across references to equipment not typically used by wildlife enthusiasts. There were mentions of advanced tracking devices, night vision goggles, and other gear that seemed out of place in a naturalist's toolkit. Why would they use this? Anna asked herself out loud. With each page, Anna's doubts about the camper's intentions intensified. The shift from a wildlife enthusiast to someone seemingly engaged in more intrusive activities was troubling. What had started as a mission to understand the behavior of the bison herd seemed to have transformed into something else entirely. Anna felt her trust waver. It was almost as if they had become a completely different person. Resolved to find answers, Anna closed the journal, her mind racing with questions. The bison's presence, a constant during her journey, seemed to be a key piece. What was the connection between the animal's odd behavior and the mysterious camper? She felt like the truth was close, and she knew what to do. Anna knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed a phone signal. She looked around, assessing her surroundings for higher ground. The bison followed her gaze, its massive head turning towards the distant hills. Deciding that higher elevation was her best bet, Anna began to move, her eyes fixed on the tallest hill in sight. She needed backup, especially if what she thought was correct. The journey towards higher ground was fraught with challenges. The terrain became increasingly treacherous, with steep inclines and thick underbrush. Anna navigated fallen logs and dense thicket, her progress slow but determined. The bison, with its powerful strides, seemed less hindered, yet it stayed close. She needed to make this phone call. Finally, Anna saw a potential spot for better reception. A clearing ahead promised a break from the relentless canopy that blanketed most of the forest. Her heart lifted with hope. This could be her chance to finally get a signal. With renewed energy, she quickened her pace, the bison matching her stride, its large eyes watchful and alert. The ascent to the clearing was strenuous, the slope steeper than it had appeared from a distance. Anna pushed herself, her muscles burning with exertion. She paused frequently, catching her breath and looking back at the path they had traversed. The bison seemed to sense her fatigue, occasionally nudging her gently as if offering encouragement. She was almost there. Finally, they reached the clearing. Anna hurriedly pulled out her phone, her fingers crossed for a signal. To her immense relief, the bars of connectivity flickered to life on her screen. She was connected to the outside world once more. She suddenly noticed the flood of text messages, most of them belonging to Matthew. He must be worried sick. Anna quickly composed a text to Matthew, her boyfriend, her fingers trembling slightly. "I'm still in the nature reserve. I am following a bison. I am calling the cops and will send you a location." Anna sent the message, her heart racing as she realized everything that had happened. It was a fast text, but she hoped it was enough. She had other matters to attend to. Next, Anna dialed the local police department. Her voice was steady as she reported her discovery of the abandoned campsite and the odd behavior of the bison. "I believe there might be illegal activities in the reserve," she explained. The dispatcher listened intently, asking for specific details. Anna described the campsite, the journal, and the unsettling findings that had led her to this point. The dispatcher requested her exact location, and Anna relayed the coordinates from her phone. She also mentioned the journal, offering it as potential evidence of whatever was happening in the reserve. "There are notes, maps, things that don't add up," she said. It seemed like the dispatcher believed her as she said to Anna that 4 agents would be on their way. The dispatcher thanked Anna for the report and informed her that a team was being mobilized. "Stay where you are and keep your phone on. We will reach you as soon as we can," the dispatcher instructed. Anna acknowledged the instructions, though she glanced at the bison, knowing that staying put might not be an option. She felt a responsibility to continue as the animal appeared restless. Despite the police's instructions, Anna knew she couldn't just wait. The bison, which had been patient during her calls, now seemed restless, its gaze fixed deeper into the woods. Anna took a deep breath and followed the animal, her sense of duty outweighing her fear. She ventured deeper into the forest. It was then that Anna and the bison stumbled onto something that took away her breath. In a secluded clearing, Anna's eyes fell upon a disturbing scene. Hidden among the trees were snares and traps, some sprung, others still set. It was clear to Anna that this area was being used for poaching. The realization hit her like a wave. This was what the bison had been leading her to uncover. As Anna explored the area, she found that there were cages, ropes, and remnants of makeshift holding areas. Each piece of evidence she found added to the story of exploitation and cruelty hidden within the woods. The journal entries now made a horrifying sense. This wasn't just observation. It was active, illegal hunting. Then she heard something. Then, amidst the quiet, Anna heard a soft, pained bellowing. Following the sound, she found 2 young bison calves caught in a trap. Their movements were restricted by the cruel confines of the snare. Tears filled Anna's eyes as she approached them slowly, speaking in gentle, soothing tones. "Shh, it will be all right." Anna stayed with the trapped calves, stroking their heads gently, trying to offer some comfort. She was afraid to free them, as what if she would hurt them? The bison stayed close to her and the calves, almost as if he was standing watch. Anna whispered promises of help and safety to the calves, hoping her words could ease their distress. Finally, the distant sound of approaching vehicles broke through the forest's quiet. Anna tensed, hoping that they would be who she expected. As the police and wildlife conservationists emerged into the clearing, Anna felt relief. Anna quickly explained the situation, pointing out the trapped calves. The rescuers sprang into action to help those poor animals. As the rescuers worked to free the calves, Anna turned to the bison that had led her here. In its eyes, she knew she saw something that she could only call gratitude. It was as though the bison had sought her out, desperately pleading for help to save these young members of its herd. She still could hardly believe that she'd been part of this all. The scene was one of controlled urgency as the police and conservationists worked to free the bison calves. They carefully dismantled the trap, speaking softly to the frightened animals. Once freed, the calves were examined for injuries, receiving immediate care. Anna watched. The calves, though shaken, were alive and safe. Anna still could hardly believe it. Anna, accompanied by a couple of officers, led the way back to the abandoned campsite. She showed them the journal, and with his DNA scattered around, they would find a way to identify the pasher. Anna explained how the pieces fit together, the officers listening intently, gathering evidence to track down the poacher. Based on Anna's information and the evidence collected from the campsite, the police were able to quickly identify and locate the poacher. Within hours, the individual was apprehended and brought to justice for their crimes against the wildlife. Anna felt a deep sense of satisfaction and relief. The law had prevailed, and the natural balance of the reserve was restored. As Anna watched the bison rejoin its herd, a sense of peace settled over her. The adventure she had embarked on had changed her in ways she could never have imagined. The experience had opened her eyes to the intricate connections between all living beings and the crucial role humans play in preserving these bonds. As she left the reserve, Anna knew that she would be back and appreciate it only more than she had before.